7th grade, and this is on lines and angles, okay? Now, the first thing I want to teach you, which you probably know about just from watching videos online or even movies, we live in a 3D or three-dimensional world, okay? And what that means is that there are 3 dimensions, length, width, and height, okay? Length, width, and height, or you could even call it depth, okay? Now, when we're working with these 3, we call it a three-dimensional, okay? So, for example, this pen is a 3D object, okay? Because it has length, it has how wide it is, and then it has depth, how much is in it, how much, or you can even think of height, okay? Same thing with this, length, width, how wide it is, and then height, okay? So it has 3 dimensions, okay? And so we call it a three-dimensional world. All right, now, in geometry, which is most of the time when you see those different objects, you may even see a 2D object, which means that it just has length and width. An example of that might be a piece of paper. Even though it has a little bit of depth, you can't really see the depth, okay? So we have a length and a width, but there is no height to it, okay? So this would probably be the closest thing to a 2D object, okay? And then a 1D would just be a dot, okay? Because it just has 1 dimension. All right, now, this would be called a point, is what they call it when you're studying in geometry. And if I were to put a letter with it, this would be called point A. All right? Now, a line consists, so if I were to draw a line, most of the time I put these arrows on it. And what that demonstrates is that this line keeps going on and on and on and on and on forever. Okay? Without end is what those arrows are to represent. Okay? Now, let's look at our next page, the next thing we're going to teach, okay? Now, here we go. For example, if I were to teach you, let's go and draw that line back up there, okay? And I'm going to teach you 3 different names of a line on this, right here on this line, okay? So the first one that I want to teach you is something that's called a ray, R-A-Y. And I taught you that last year, but what a ray is it has one endpoint and then it continues on one side. So, for example, if I were to take off that arrow, this would be ray AB. And the way you would write that is like this. You would tell me that's ray AB, okay? All right, another way you could have said it is this is ray BA, okay? And so you would have put BA with a ray sign. Okay, it's not important that you show left or right. Just show that it's a ray up top, okay? Now, we also have, like I said a while ago, this would be line AB. Okay, so you would label it AB like this, which shows line AB. And as you can see, I'm showing that the line extends on forever. So that would be a line. Okay, and the next one is called a segment. And a segment, the way I remember segment is that it has stoppers. Okay, so segment AB would be the length from this dot all the way to this dot. Okay, so from here to here is line segment AB. And usually you just would draw a line on top of it. You don't have to worry about the stoppers, okay? But this is to show that it stops. So that's where I get the S and the stop, okay, from. All right? So let's review again. A ray is one that has a stopper on one side and an arrow on the other. And I taught you last year to think about a stingray, okay? For example, here's my line, my stopper. And then the tail of a stingray, okay? And I just pretend that that's it, okay? That always has helped me because the stopper is right here, and then it keeps going. Okay, or you can think about a ray of a sunshine. Okay, and the rays just keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Okay, so it has a stopper here, and it keeps going to the end of the earth. Okay, so that is how you can remember ray. Then you have segment, which are the two stoppers, and then you have line, which has lines showing that it goes extended in both ways forever. Okay, so ray, segment, line. All right. Now, the next thing I want you to look at is if I had, let's draw this one up here. This is what it looks like in the book. They don't actually have an arrow right there. And they've labeled it A, B, and C. Okay? And now, what they've asked me in this picture is if I were to say that segment AB is 3 millimeters, okay, then how far is segment BC if this whole thing is 7 millimeters? Whoops, 7 millimeters, okay? So from A to C, it's 7 millimeters. And from A to B, it's 3 millimeters. So how can I discover from here to here, if this is 7, then what would B to C be? Well, obviously you would take the 7, subtract this amount so that we can get this full amount. So we would end up getting 4 millimeters on that. So sometimes you may see in the book, it'll say, what is the measure of BC, and it'll have a line on top of it like that because we're working with segments. So you can put those stoppers if you want to. So this M can stand for measure. So if you see the M, that means measure. Okay? So what is the measure of BC in this? And so you would say equals 4 millimeters. Okay? Very well. You're supposed to be working on your history. All right. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is a plane, P-L-A-N-E, okay? And a plane is a surface that extends without end, and it has 2 dimensions. So again, this would be, because it's 2-dimensional, would be the best description of it, okay? So as you can see, that is a plane because but it's only a portion of a plane because obviously this paper doesn't extend without end forever. So it's just a portion of a plane. All right, let's look at a few lines that are crossed. Do something. Okay, as I was saying, let's look at how when we cross lines, what we're going to call them. Okay, first of all, let me label these. A, B, C, and D. And this middle one they're going to call M. Not for measure, just that's letter M. Okay? Now, if these 2 lines cross, okay, what that means is that they intersect. Okay, you may look on roads or a map, and it may be called an intersection. It just means where 2 roads cross. Okay, it's an intersection. All right. Now, another way you may see lines are like this. Okay. This is line QR. This is line ST. Okay? Now, these lines right here are called parallel lines. And the way I remember that is look at those 2 L's within parallel. Those are lined up and they are actually parallel. So that always helps me remember parallel. Now, these are intersecting lines, okay? They are also called oblique lines, okay? lines that intersect are called oblique lines. Okay? Now, there is one thing I want you to see. Okay? In a minute, you're going to see me intersect two lines, but it's not going to be called oblique. It's going to be called perpendicular. Perpendicular. You want to write that word down. Perpendicular is a special crossing or intersection of two lines. Do you know why? Okay? What's different about this one with this one? And what I want you to notice is that it has square corners. So it makes a perfect square corner. See that? So a lot of times they'll indicate it by putting this little box right here to show you that each of these four corners are perfectly square, perfectly 90 degrees. Okay? Now, what I want you to see, whoops. Okay? So now, what I want you to see is that these two lines are called perpendicular lines because not only do they intersect, but they also form perfect square corners. Okay? So, I'm going to label these. P, Q, M, S, and N. Okay, so I labeled that one. Okay, now let's talk about each of these three different figures that I've drawn up here. Okay? Hopefully you remember that lines that just cross are called what? They're called oblique lines. Lines that cross and form four corners are called perpendicular lines. And lines that are just, where no matter how you turn them, they stay the same distance apart from each other. From here to here is the same distance. From here to here is the same distance. Those are called parallel lines. Okay? Now, let's talk about angles, okay? So we're going to kind of move directions for just a minute, okay? Now this angle, what I want you to see is I have a point here or a stopper here, and then I have lines that are extending forever, extending forever. What is this line called? It is called a ray because why? Because it has a stopper with a line on the other end, a stopper and a line on the other end, okay? So if I labeled this A, B, C, okay? And I were to ask you to label this angle, you would say angle A, B, C, just like that. So if you're telling me about a line BC, just this one right here, you would say line BC or ray BC because it has a stopper, okay? Now, because we're working with angles, I want you to look at something, okay? A lot of times I can just say this is angle B because it's the middle angle and it expresses that this is its angle. This is right here, okay? So I can either label this angle ABC or just angle B, okay? But I cannot name it angle BCA. Why? Because I'm saying BCA like that, and this is the angle we're talking about if I were to label it that. So you cannot label it that, okay? Hopefully that makes sense. All right, let's quickly review our angles from last year, okay? I'm going to draw them up here. Okay, so let's look at just this one, okay? I don't know if you can focus just on this one right here, okay? And because this makes a perfect angle, okay, and a lot of times, again, they'll have this little square corner right here. That's to show that this is a right angle, okay? That's what that's called. This one right here is called a right angle, and it is exactly 90 degrees, okay? This one right here, I don't know if you remember me telling you last year, it has a small angle. It's less than 90 degrees, okay? So this would be 90 degrees, but it's less than that, so it's considered an acute angle. And the way I remember that is it's kind of little and cute, okay? And it's less than 90 degrees, less than 90 degrees, okay? So basically anything 89 degrees and all the way to 0 degrees, okay, would be an acute angle, okay? This one right here kind of looks weird, okay? But it's, let me put little angles on it, okay? Now, this one is called a straight angle or straight line, all right? And if we were to measure, so for example, if I had a 90-degree angle here and a 90-degree angle here, so this would be 90 degrees and this would be 90 degrees. So let's take away that little middle line. And so 90 plus 90 would equal 180 degrees. So a straight line is 180 degrees because it makes up two 90-degree measurements, which equals 180. Very good. And then our last one, okay, this one, it has a fat angle, and it is called obtuse. And I try to remember that because obese, the OB is fat, obese, and this is called obtuse. Okay, and an obtuse angle, now look in regards to that would be a perfect 90 degrees, and as you can see, it's greater than that. It went past that 90 degrees. So because it went past that 90 degrees, it is considered an obtuse angle. So this is greater than 90 degrees. So basically 91 degrees all the way to 179, because 180 equals a straight line. Okay, so an obtuse angle is anything greater than 90 degrees, okay, but less than this straight. All right, that's just a quick review. All right, now, last thing on this lesson, I'm going to draw a few figures, and I want you to help me figure it out, okay? I've got A, B, C, and D. Okay? Now, again, these are showing that we have perfect square corners. Okay? And what this is saying is they're asking me which line is parallel to line AB. So, they're saying this is line AB, and what line is parallel to line AB? We would say line CD would be our answer. Or you can turn it around and say line DC, okay? Because either way, it still shows us that this is the line we're talking about. All right, now let's look at another figure. Okay, so on the bottom I've got A, M, and D, and then I've got B up here and C right here. So I've got A, M, D, B, and C. All right, and the question they asked me is this, is that there are several angles in this figure, okay? They want you to name okay, sorry about that. Okay, back to this lesson. All right, let's look at this figure, okay? And they're asking me to name the straight angle, okay? Obviously, this is the only straight angle we have. So we are going to say, because they're saying straight angle, so we're going to name it angle AMD, okay? Or you could even say angle AD, or angle DA, showing that it's going this way, or even angle DMA, okay? Either of those are fine to label it, okay? So that would be our straight angle. Now, they're asking us to name the obtuse angle. So look at that figure and see if you can find the obtuse. Now remember, obtuse means it's a fat angle, okay? And it's greater than 90 degrees. Hopefully you see that this CMA, this angle right here, CMA, is our obtuse angle. So you would label it CMA, just like that. angle CMA. Okay? Or again, you could have said AMC. AMC. I would not want to label this just angle M because angle M, there's a lot of them. Okay? So this is one of those points where you could not do that. Go under me. Okay. The next thing they're wanting us to name two right angles. Okay? So hopefully looking at this, you're able to see that DMB is an angle, a right angle, because it's a perfect 90 degrees. Okay? Or even AMB. Okay? So we would name that AMB, just like that, or DMB. Okay? So there's two of them right there. Okay? And so that's how we would label them. All right? And then there are, left is an acute angle. Okay? And there happen to be two acute angles. Okay? It would not be AMB because that's a perfect 90 degrees. We're wanting something less than. Okay? So hopefully you see two of them. This one right here, DMC. You see that small one right there? So we would label that DMC or even CMD. Okay? But there's one more acute angle. Okay? Hopefully you see BMC. See that acute angle? It's really small, less than 90 degrees. So we would label that BMC, angle BMC, or even CMB. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. And so that's how we would name our angles. Okay, one last thing, all right, is on Earth we refer to objects as being vertical and horizontal. Okay? And a lot of times you can think of a horizontal line as we have the horizon and the sun comes up on the horizon. Okay? Another way I try to remember that is when I have an H, this main line in the middle is horizontal. Okay? And then if you're looking at vertical, a vertical line is one that just goes straight up and down. That's a vertical line. And I try to remember that like this V for vertical. Okay? That always helps me. Okay? So vertical and horizontal. Now, let me draw a figure up here. All right. Look at this figure. A, B, C, D, E, and F. Okay? If you want to draw this, you can, or you can just watch. Okay? And here's what it says. A power pole, which kind of looks like that in real life, with two cross pieces can be represented by three segments. Name a vertical segment. Okay, vertical meaning up and down. So what is our vertical segment? Line AB or segment AB. And remember, put your little stoppers on it or just don't put any line endings like this on it. Don't do that. Okay, so you would either put the stoppers or just draw a line. Okay, and that shows me that that is segment AB. See our stoppers everywhere? All right. Now, the next question they asked me is, name a horizontal segment. Okay, well, there happen to be two of them here, but one of them they're just wanting us to name. We would say segment CD. Just like that, or you could have said DC. Okay, same line. Or, if you picked a different one, you could have said segment EF or FE. Okay, either one of those. All right, now, they asked me this question, and this is where you'll have to use the knowledge that I taught you in the beginning. And they asked this, name a segment perpendicular to CD. Okay, perpendicular means lines that cross and form perfect 90-degree angles. So, they asked me to name, again, sorry about that. So a segment that is perpendicular to CD would be one that has a cross, it's crossing it and forms a perfect 90-degree angle. So as you can see, this is CD and this AB forms a perfect 90-degree angle. So therefore, these lines right here, CD and AB, are perpendicular lines, angles, okay? And so your answer would be segment AB is perpendicular to segment CD. Thank you.